Hey everybody, it's Dr. May. How are you? Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Today we're doing some more Radically Open DBT. This is about trying something new. Okay, so adding some spice to our life by doing new stuff. All right, and how we could get a little better at that. So they call it engaging in novel behavior. All right, so kind of like that second penguin who's kind of strutting his stuff, doing something a little different from the other ones, right? So sometimes we gotta break out and do something new, okay? All right, so why engage in novel behavior? All right, so we got a dialectic here, if you think about it, right? So on the one hand, it's doing the usual stuff, right? The kind of routines that we have and the typical stuff that we tend to do on a regular basis the same kind of way, and kind of breaking things up a little bit by, doing something a little different once in a while. Maybe trying something new, being a little more spontaneous, right? So it's important to have that balance, right? If there's way too much newness, that would probably be overwhelming, right? We would kind of be pretty anxious probably if everything was always new all the time, right? But at the same time, if things are the same all the time, it's a little boring, right? So it's important for us to strike that balance. So for this presentation, if you're somebody who's a little more comfortable or maybe a little too comfortable doing things the same kind of way all the time, this is some tips you're going to get today about, varying it up a little bit. Okay, vary is the key word. Okay, so we're going to talk about flexible mind varies, the acronym later. Okay, so just to inspire you, so we learn the most sometimes when we fear things the most, right? So if you're afraid of doing something new, but you try it, you're actually going to probably feel pretty good about the fact that you just gave it a try, right? And it's also helped us learn something new because we have to try something new and take a risk to learn something new. And when we learn new stuff, it kind of helps us to grow as a person and expand our repertoire. And as I say, novelty is like the spice of life, right? Kind of makes things a little more interesting. Okay, but just to acknowledge, right, it is kind of feels like a risk when we do new stuff, right? There's a sense of unknown in there, and unknown is a little scary, right? So when we try new things, or do a new skill that we don't know yet, so we risk making mistakes. We may not have the answer in terms of how to do it, and we have to feel a little uncomfortable and tolerate that uncertainty. So it is, not the easiest thing, but sometimes you need risk to get to reward, right? Okay, so they talk about this kind of like a process of how we learn something new, right? So first you start off, and they say it's like unconscious incompetence. So it's like you don't know that you don't know. So let's say, for example, I lived in a place where I never saw a bicycle before. So I didn't even know that I didn't know how to ride a bicycle because I never saw a bicycle, okay? But then maybe I saw some people riding a bicycle up and down the street, and I was like, gee, I realize I don't know how to ride it, but I don't even know the first thing about how to try, right? So that's conscious incompetence. So I know that I don't know how to do it, but I'm not sure how to learn or what to do about it, okay? Next is conscious competence. So let's say a neighbor starts to teach me how to ride a bike, and I'm falling a little bit, maybe a little wobbly. So I'm not great at it. I'm kind of a newbie, but at least I'm trying, right? But I know what to, I kind of know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not good at it yet. Maybe I didn't really develop the muscle memory. And then finally, unconscious competence, which is like, it's so easy. It's just like riding a bicycle, right? Like I just hop on and ride without even really thinking too hard about it because it's just kind of automatic now. I'm pretty, expert at it. Okay. So that's sort of the progression, generally speaking, of how we learn something new. Okay. So we're going to do a little self-enquiry, brief one about learning new stuff. Okay. So quick review, although this is also in a video I did for lesson 1. Okay. So self-enquiry or inquiry, whether you spell it with an E or an I, okay, is pretty much like asking yourself questions. And the goal of asking yourself these questions is to help open you up, right? So if you're a little bit rigid or closed-minded about something, or you have some kind of like set views about something, it helps to expand your mind a little bit. It helps you to go, gee, I wonder why I think that way. Or I wonder why I kind of do things that way. What does that mean? What do I have to learn here, right? So it kind of expands our mind a little bit, all right? And sometimes the questions we dislike the most are the ones that give us the most insight because it makes us a little uncomfortable and it brings us toward what they call our edge, which is like that point where we're kind of on the edge of unknowing and discovering something new or realizing something we didn't realize before, right? So it could kind of, open our mind a little. But the idea is not to do an inquiry where it's like, we're in interrogation where you're kind of like putting yourself in the stand for a long period of time, right? Maybe about 5 minutes, just kind of like run through some questions in your mind. And you don't have to have the answers. It's just a matter of asking the questions. And sometimes even just asking the questions and allowing the answers to evolve naturally is enough, okay? So here we go. We're going to do just a brief one on learning something new. Okay. So and the topic of being an expert, like being unconscious competence, right? So sometimes we feel the most comfortable being expert at something, right? Because we feel like, oh, good, I just know it, right? I feel like people are going to realize I know it and I know it. I'm comfortable knowing what to do, right? But what are the downsides of being an expert, quote unquote expert? And are you ever more closed-minded because you think you already know the answer, right? Like if I know how to ride a bike, do I already feel like I know it? I already know everything there possibly is to know about riding a bike, and there's nothing anyone could teach me about it. Maybe that blocks me off from learning something new about it, right? There's professional bikers that probably know a whole lot more than I do, but maybe because I think I know it, I'm not as open as I could be. Interesting, right? Okay. What about if you're one of the folks that kind of enjoy your routine, maybe a little too much, right? We kind of in the same routine, like on the left, like looks kind of like a morning routine. Maybe we do the same morning routine every day, right? So what behaviors do you always do the same? If you were to think about your usual routine, what are the things that you do the same way all the time? How often do you think you keep things the same in order to minimize the stress of not knowing? So what does that mean? So does doing things the same all the time kind of give me the illusion of predictability or the illusion of sameness or the illusion of, having a grasp on an uncertain situation? Because it kind of sometimes gives us that illusion, but in essence, life has a lot of unknowns, right? But doing the same routine over and over again or thinking the same things over and over again kind of block us from realizing that, all right? So what is it that you might need to learn? Let you stew over that for a minute. Okay, so here's a self-inquiry about trying something new, okay? So to what extent are you okay with being in the earlier stages of learning, right? Like how comfortable are you not being so good at something? Like if you were that, new bicycle rider and you were kind of wobbly and fell sometimes, like how okay are you with that? Is it really uncomfortable sometimes to not really be an expert or to be around people that know the skill better than you? Sometimes, right? How often have you thought that trying something new would be an awful experience, only to discover it wasn't as bad as you expected, or that you might have even liked it? Because sometimes, think about it, we kind of develop a little bit of a fear of trying something new and we build it up in our mind and we make it seem like it's going to be really bad. But sometimes when we get there, it's not as bad as we think, right? So is my mind tricking me out of wanting to try something new because of fear? Okay. All right. So that's all with the self-inquiry for now. Okay. We're going to move on to one of the acronyms of Radically Open DBT. So this one is flexible mind varies. So this is like a series of steps or tips we could use when we're trying to engage in novel behavior or do new things. Okay, so there's just a few things we could keep in mind. All right, the S is lowercase because they couldn't think of something to end the word. So only the VARIE has stuff that's abbreviated. Okay, so here we go. So V. So first, verify, right? So verify your willingness to experience something new. Okay, so I'm going to switch the example. So let's say I haven't really been bowling since I was a kid, and some people want me to go bowling. So how willing am I to want to go bowling? Am I willing to try this new thing that I may not be very good at? Okay, so to inspire you a little bit, just remember that effective people in general are open to trying new things, right? They're open to change, they're open to not being an expert. And successful people are adaptive and learn to adjust to changing circumstances, right? So if I was out with friends at dinner and I felt very comfortable, and then they said, hey, let's go bowling, it's good to be adaptive and be like, okay, let's go. Okay. And also trying new behaviors can bring us closer to our valued goals, right? So maybe it would help us interpersonally to go with the flow, or maybe I'd feel proud of myself if I try new stuff, right? And it was kind of along my values of wanting to be a well-rounded person, for example. Okay. So this is kind of like stuff that could inspire us to be willing to try new stuff. Okay, next, A, check the accuracy of hesitancy, aversion, or urges to avoid the new behavior. Okay, so obviously when we want to try something new, the fear sometimes kicks in, right? We're a little nervous about how it's going to go, how it's going to feel, what people are going to think about me, and all that kind of stuff, right? So this is kind of like check your worry thoughts. How accurate are they? Is it worth letting them rule your decision, or do you want to override them? Okay, so here's some more bonus self-inquiry about this. So does it make sense for me to be opposed to doing something new? Do I believe I already know what might happen if I tried the new behavior? Like, do I have a crystal ball and I'm assuming I know the future is going to be negative in some way, right? Because I have already tried blank in the past, do I believe it's useless to try again, right? So let's say I said, well, I did bowl when I was 8 and it was really stupid anyway, so forget it. Or, I'm probably just going to get gutter balls, so what's the point, right? Am I just like kind of fortune telling a little bit here? All right. Do I believe it's unfair that I must do something different? Why do I have to go bowling? Why can't we just go out to dinner like I want? Okay. Like, why should I have to be uncomfortable? No fair. Okay. Do I secretly hope I'll fail when trying the new behavior because I secretly don't want to change? Right? So if I get a whole bunch of gutter balls, is it now going to be an excuse for me to say, see, forget it. I'm not going to do this new stuff again. See how bad it turned out? Okay. Is it possible I'm minimizing the positive consequences of changing? Right? So we were just talking about some of the positive things that could come with it. Am I just kind of throwing them out the window? Am I forgetting that that trying something new could be in line with my goals, or could help me be a more well-rounded person, or help me feel proud? Right? Sometimes I downplay that. Right? Okay, so some food for thought here, right? Okay, so R, relinquish. All right, so kind of giving up things like compulsive planning, rehearsal, or preparation prior to trying the new behavior. Okay, so sometimes when we feel a little unsafe or uncomfortable trying something new, we try to make up for it by over preparing, right? So what if I said, oh my God, my friends want me to go bowling, I better start Googling things about bowling and how to hold a bowling ball and how to find the right shoes and how to walk down the path to throwing the ball and how not to let the ball drop. And, what if I was going nuts with that? When all I need to do is just freaking show up. Who cares, right? So sometimes, we try to feel safe, falsely safe or falsely comfortable by this over preparation, okay? But once in a while, we do need some preparation. So if there is preparation that's necessary for something, do it in a reasonable way, but don't overdo it. But a lot of times preparation may not be necessary, okay? So remind yourself, don't go overboard. And remember that sometimes it's disguised avoidance, right? Like I might keep postponing trying bowling because I keep feeling like, well, maybe I didn't research it enough first, so I better just keep researching it. And then I just keep delaying the inevitable and I postpone my decision to do it because I'm afraid of feeling uncomfortable, but I use the excuse that I'm not prepared enough, right? Okay. So if I have the urge to overplan, I have to urge surf those desires. So notice my urge to overplan, watch the urge, but don't act on it, okay? And if I don't act on it, the urge will pass and it'll get better, okay? And another thing that they suggest is I could use loving kindness or compassion, let's say, and direct that toward the perfectionistic part of myself that wants to overplan, right? So lesson 4, we did a loving kindness practice. So it's basically extending well wishes toward the part of me that wants to overplan, understanding that it just wants to protect me, that it's suffering, that it's a little anxious. And so I'm directing these kind wishes toward that suffering part of myself. Okay. So instead of saying, oh, what's the matter with me? I keep doing this, or why do I have to overplan? Right. So that's judgment, right? So instead of judgment, we're going to love the part of ourself that's suffering and that wants to protect us. Okay. All right. So we're trying to, all right, let go of all this over planning. Next, the I is initiate, right? So we're going to initiate the new behavior after activating our social safety system, right? So we forgot about the over planning. Now we're just going to do it. Okay. But to make it a little more comfortable, we're going to try to activate our social safety system. So how did we learn how to do that? We learned it in lesson 3 and lesson 4. Okay. So quick review. So lesson 3 had a bunch of tips about how to change our body in order to change our mind and our emotions before doing something that feels uncomfortable. So the big 3 plus 1 that's referenced there is the plus 1 is sitting back in your chair if you're sitting, a closed mouth smile, and eyebrow wags, right? And also deep breath. So that makes our body feel more safe and comfortable. So when we're trying something new that feels threatening, it helps turn off the threat system, okay? Another thing that they found that helps is loving kindness practice. So we could direct that toward the perfectionistic part of ourself, or we could also direct loving kindness toward, by remembering times when we felt loving kindness toward somebody or toward ourselves, or experienced someone directing it toward us. Then we take those feelings and we imagine directing it towards someone we really care about, and also a neutral person. And it's kind of like a meditation we can do, and it helps calm our system so we feel more comfortable in a situation such as like trying new things. Okay, so both of these are fully explained in video 3 and video 4. Okay. All right, so once you activate your social safety system, you're feeling a little more comfortable. They say, don't think, just do. All right, so try not to overthink it. Try not to worry too much, get too self-conscious, worry about the results. Just try to do the behavior. All right, so if we're gonna go bowling, I'm just gonna bowl. Okay, I'm gonna pick out a ball. I'm gonna throw it down the bowling alley. I'm sorry, see, I'm not much of a bowler myself. I should probably bowl if it's even open for Corona, I don't know. So just try to be in the moment, you know, enjoy it if you can, participate mindfully, and do the best you can, all right? And remember, you know, doing something new is the only way to learn something new. Something new comes from something new, right? And also, if you're feeling awkward, it's kind of normal, right? When we do new stuff, we do feel awkward because it's new, all right? So it doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means it's something new, okay? And it doesn't mean you're failing. It's just a sign of, you know, how people normally feel if they're trying something they haven't tried before. All right, so be easy on yourself. Okay, so finally, the E in varies is evaluate the outcome non-judgmentally. Okay, so after the thing is over, let's say we finished bowling, I went home, and now I'm like replaying the evening in my mind a little bit, right? I'm going to try to be non-judgmental about how it went to the best I can, right? So I'm going to try to reward myself, you know, in whatever way that's appropriate, whether it's an ice cream cone or just a little pat on the back, because you know what? I took the risk. I did it. Okay. I didn't have to do it, but I chose to do it. And trying new things isn't a bad thing. So I should give myself props for that. Okay. Try to think about what went well instead of focusing on all the problems, if there were problems. Okay. And if someone complimented you while you're doing the behavior, just try to gracefully accept it. Just say thank you without trying to be like, nah, I really wasn't that great at bowling anyway. Yeah, I still got a bunch of gutter balls. You know, like don't downplay it. Just say, okay, thank you. All right. All right. Next, when you try to imagine how others were reacting to you during the situation, try to be as objective as you can. Okay. So for example, let's say I went bowling with some people, you know, afterwards I could easily say, yeah, you know, I saw them looking at me funny when I got that gutter ball. They probably think I suck. They probably were wondering, like, what kind of an idiot are you trying this bowling thing when you don't know what the heck you're doing? And boy, she's probably not such a great person because she's really bad at bowling. Well, how do I know that? Am I just inventing that in my mind? Or did I actually know that? And even if they did say it, why should I care? It's just their opinion, right? So I shouldn't be mind reading and making stuff up. I should try to be objective about how other people reacted. Maybe they were watching me throw the ball down the alley. I got the word right this time, the bowling alley, because maybe they were just watching everybody. They were just watching me throw the ball. Maybe they weren't judging me, right? I can't just overassume, right? Okay. And next, what you could do too is practice self-inquiry when you think about the evening and how you reacted and how things went, okay? And try to use it to figure out how open was I really to trying this thing, or could I be a little more open the next time? So I'm gonna use this to tantalize you for the next video because I'm gonna do a whole thing on self-inquiry on new behaviors, okay? It was kind of long, so I didn't want to combine it with this, but the next one will explore that further, okay? All right, so remember your flexible mind varies, all right? Try to be open to trying new stuff, and more to come about this topic. There's 2 more videos for lesson 5, all right? So stay tuned. All right, so talk to you guys later, okay? Take care now.